we have to think about, the experiences that have shaped their beliefs. What are their beliefs? What are their values? And that's what's determining their actions. So if you want different results, if you want a different outcome, you gotta have different actions. And if you want different actions, you gotta have different beliefs.
Today, I am very excited to welcome Patrick Adams to the show. And I just got done recording the interview, and my head is still spinning a little bit. It was, it's a different type of interview. I mean, Patrick's a big lean guy, and we could throw down on any sort of lean topic he ever could imagine. But today, we dig deep into Patrick's story, and when I say deep, I mean deep. We really just kind of get into who he is and how he's become who he is today. And in order to do that, we had to go through some really difficult times that Patrick experienced as a young person and a young adult. And so he sort of just walks us through his personal story of transformation, really. That's all I can call it. And I don't want to talk too much about the intro because I'm going to screw it up, because it's just too powerful, and words are really hard for me to come up with right now to describe what just happened. So I'm just going to let it play out and let you listen to it. I'd ask you to listen to this whole thing, because towards the end is when Patrick really opens up about sort of some of his personal testimony. So show notes can be found over at gembapodcast.com. Look for episode 577. Again, gembapodcast.com, and look for episode 577. Okay, enough from me. Let's get to the show. Patrick, welcome to the show. How's it going?
Hey, it's going good. I am excited to be here. This is my second time on the show, so excited to be back. Looking forward to chatting it up with you.
Yeah, man, I'm excited as well. What episode were you on before? I didn't look it up. I can't remember. Do you remember?
Ooh, it was right after I published my book, Avoiding the Continuous Appearance Trap. So I don't remember the episode number, but it was probably would have been just a few years ago now. So
well,
been a little while.
I found it. 354, Avoiding the Continuous Appearance Trap with Patrick Adams, 354. So we'll link that up in the show notes in case people didn't get that first one, and they can have a double decker of Patrick.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Love it.
Where are you calling in from?
I am in Michigan, the beautiful state of Michigan. It's starting to warm up here, but a little chilly today. It's that time of year in Michigan where it's hit or miss on whether you're wearing a t-shirt and shorts or a sweatshirt and stocking caps. So,
or maybe both in the same day, right?
That's true. Yeah, that is true. It's not uncommon to see someone wearing shorts and a sweatshirt. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, hey, Patrick, I know you know the drill. We like to get things started with our guest sharing a quote. So what do you got?
Yeah, so I got a quote from Norman Peale, and the quote says, "The more you practice the art of thankfulness, the more you have to be thankful for." And I think for me, that's just a reminder of the importance of gratitude and just being thankful for the things that we have. Recently was able to hold my first grandchild in my arms, and it was just a reminder of so many things that I've been blessed with, and just the importance of remembering that we are blessed, very blessed.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and we were chatting before we hit record. I mentioned that I'm about 4-ish. Well, as the time of this recording, I am 4 months or so behind you on first grandbaby. So man,
yes.
we're excited.
I'm excited for you.
Man.
It's crazy. It's just a totally different feeling.
Is it?
I have 3 kids, and it's like every time my daughter sends me a picture of our grandson, I just am like all smiles. Like it sends this feeling of just. I don't know, just a different type of love that you get from a grandkid. So I'm excited.
Can't wait. Awesome. All right. Well, hey, Patrick, I know you've been on before. A lot of people already know who you are, but just in case folks aren't familiar with Patrick, tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background, what you're up to these days, and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah. My little bit about my background. I spent 8 years in the Marine Corps. And when I got out of the Marine Corps, I landed a job as a production supervisor at a plastics plant here in Holland, Michigan. And I just fell in love with manufacturing. And I spent a number of years working in operations management, and then also in as a lean coach. I was fortunate landing at a company where, as a supervisor over a weld department, our area was chosen to be a model cell for the company that was just starting on their lean journey.
Oh, good.
And so I was very fortunate to be involved in that. I didn't know anything about continuous improvement. The person's name that they hired, his name was Justin, so we called him Just in Time. Joke
Nice.
for all of you. But now I was very fortunate to work under him for a while, and then landed a job because of the work there. Landed a job as a plant lean manager at a company that had an amazing lean culture, and just continued to develop my skill set. Worked for a lot of really, really great coaches, and then about 8 years ago now, stepped out on my own to help companies develop their own internal capabilities, and hopefully work down the lean transformation journey and have some really, really good measurable results. So that's what I've been doing since, and it's been a blast.
Nice. Very good. All right. Well, I'm really excited for today's topic, and I want to maybe just kind of kick things off with, I know that you're passionate about, about people and change and all the rest of it, but wondering if you just, what's it mean to you to empower and equip people for positive change? Yeah,
that is my life's purpose. And it has since been adopted by my company as a company purpose and mission to really to empower and equip people for positive change. I think everything that we do is so much about people, and whether it's family, friendships, work relationships. I mean, no matter where you are or what you're doing, you're working with people. And for me, it became kind of something inside me that was developed over time, because I had, as a young person, I had some struggles and challenges in my life, and I had a certain number of individuals that poured into me, and they empowered me and they equipped me. And it wasn't until later in life that I looked back and I was like, man, I wouldn't be where I'm at today without those individuals that cared enough to and were genuinely cared about me and my future. And so there was a point in my life where I said, man, I need to do that for other people. And so I adopted that as my own personal purpose. But then, as Lean Solutions began to grow and develop, it was something that I said, this has to be a cornerstone of what we do at Lean Solutions, and it needs to be about the people. Obviously, we work in many different process steps, lots of different companies and industries, but at the end of the day, if we're not making a positive impact on people, then why are we here?
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, you're sort of kind of hinting at that. I don't want to pry into your personal life too much, but I mean, I know you from just knowing you, but I'm wondering if you'd be open to sharing, maybe just from a personal side, some experiences of transformation that I know that you've gone through.
Yeah, absolutely. So if I go back, I won't get too detailed here, but I grew up in a really, really tough home environment. And when I was younger, my dad left at a really young age, and my home was experienced a lot of abuse, neglect in the home. There were a lot of drugs and alcohol, and it was a tough place to grow up. And honestly, those experiences as a young child started to kind of create certain beliefs in me about other people, about life, about how to approach certain situations. And, those experiences turned into beliefs, which then led to certain actions that, had me heading down the wrong path. And I got involved with drugs and alcohol. I was even jumped into a gang at one point. I was running the streets, living on the streets, really getting into a lot of trouble. And I was in and out of runaway homes in middle school. And by age of 14, I ended up in rehab. And it was at that time in my life when my dad, actually, who had been living out of state and was removed from my life growing up, he came back into Michigan and got custody of my brother and I, and brought us to his house. And it was like a total, like the pendulum swung in the total opposite direction. We went from having no rules, running the streets, doing whatever we wanted, to we had to do 1 hour of homework every night, 2 hours on the weekends. We had to choose 2 sports that we had to play. We had to completely change our groups of friends. It was tough. I mean, if you can imagine, like, going from one to the opposite, it was like, for me, I still remember the point when I was like, I'm not going to do this. Like, I'm out. And I remember leaving the house and running away, which is what I did as a kid. I was, again, my beliefs that I grew up with, the values that I grew up with, pointed me in the direction of just running away. And that was the action that came out of that. And for the first time in my life, my dad ran after me. Someone ran after me, and it was my dad, and he chased me down. And I remember him sitting me down on the curb.
How old were you when
I was? This would have been 14, 15 years old. Okay. It was he when he got custody of my brother and I, he pulled me out of rehab and brought me to his house. I've been 14, 15 years old. And so he sat me down on the curb and he said, "You're not going to run away from your problems anymore. You're going to face your problems, and we're going to deal with this. It's going to be difficult, but we're going to deal with it together." And that was a turning point for my life, because I had these certain beliefs about things. And because of this massive change in direction, where I had someone that was now leading my life or helping to coach me through life, and he was teaching me different beliefs, different values. And so slowly my actions started to change. It took a lot of work, but things started to change, and that was really a turning point for me growing up. So I talked about the individuals that, poured into my life. The really cool thing about when I was growing up, and when I was living with my mom and I was having all these problems, there was one thing that was constant in my life as a kid before I moved in with my dad. And it was the summer camp that I would go to. Every summer I would go to the local YMCA. I would get candy bars, and I would go door to door, and I would sell enough candy bars to get me to summer camp, because we couldn't pay for it at that time. But I would sell enough candy bars, and I would get to summer camp. And then the counselors at the summer camp they knew about my home life. And so they would spend extra time with me. They would, take me aside. They would talk with me. They just spent some extra time with me. And then after summer camp, these same counselors would come and find me wherever I was on the streets. And they would, take me to lunch, or, take me to the local YMCA, play racquetball or whatever it was. And they spoke into my life. And, each time that we were together, they were that one positive piece in my life. So when my dad came back into my life, it was like, I had that, and then I had these counselors, and it was like all these positive male role models that I needed. At this point, really, my development as a positive individual, this different path, this change really started to accelerate. And I still struggled, still had a lot of troubles, but it was those things that really helped put me on the right path. And so, I don't know if you want me to go on, but
no, well, I guess I don't, I'm hesitant to even ask questions about it.
No, I'm an open book, man.
There's something private that you don't want to share, but
no.
I guess what I'm curious about is, as it relates to your relationship with your dad. So when you were young and your mom and dad were, I guess, together, and then and you ended up with your mom, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And your dad left.
Yeah.
And that was a bad leaving. Did your dad had some improvement in his life that brought him back to you? That's what I'm trying to piece together.
Yeah, that's a really good question. That is what happened. I think, he had, as far as I remember, he had moved to Texas, and I think he had a revelation that he just wanted to be a dad at some point, and decided to come back, and then, brought my mom to court, and because of the home life that we had, because where my mom was at, which even to this day she still struggles, and she's a drug addict and
Mm.
homeless, and so
Oh, sorry.
that life was what I grew up in. But my dad had a job, and he had had a house, and so when he took my mom to court, it was no problem for him to get custody of us. But yeah, I think it was just for him. I think he just decided that at some point, I don't know exactly what it was, but he decided that he wanted to be a dad, and came back, and definitely was what I needed at that time in my life, and it made all the difference for me, for sure.
So what, okay, how old were you when he came back then?
It would have been somewhere around 14, 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so then talk about your like high school years then.
Yeah.
So you're with your dad and you're on
Yeah.
some rules and all the rest of it. Like,
yeah. So it was difficult at first, because my first half, or almost my full freshman year of high school, I was not in school, and so I had a lot of catch up to do, and so he helped with that. But I would say probably one of the hardest things to do was changing my friend group. You hear the quote about the people that you surround yourself are who
Yeah.
you will become, or the 5 people that you surround yourself.
Mhm.
I mean, there's so much truth to that. And for me, that was the hardest thing to do. And I remember, those people that I called my friends, they didn't like that I was shifting, or that I
Yeah.
was, but I didn't have a choice. My dad did not give me a choice. And it was like, no, you're not going to hang out with that group anymore. And, I fought it as best I could. But once I got involved in sports, and learned that I was fairly athletic, I started to make some other friends that were more, athletes, and,
Mhm.
played on the same teams that I did. And, that helped definitely to make that transition. But that was tough. That was my first couple of years of high school. And then, obviously I mean, not tooting my own horn here, but I'm a pretty smart guy when I apply myself.
I agree. I know you. You are a very smart guy.
Well, in middle school, I didn't apply myself, and in high school, I'm doing an hour of homework every night, 2 hours on the weekends.
Yeah.
My grades popped up pretty quick, and I was doing pretty good with my grades, and again, fairly good on the sports side. I was a wrestler, and I played football, and and I had some really great coaches along the way too, that again spoke in my life, and all those camp counselors, they stuck right by my side, even through high school. In fact, it's funny, I still, one of those guys still reaches out to me, and I still, head over there and see him around the holidays, and
The
it's
coach
pretty
or
cool. No, this was one of the camp counselors, actually,
camp
from
counselors. Okay.
that summer camp that I went to.
Oh, wow.
So he's still around, and still, reaching out and checking in on me, and
Well, yeah, but I
asking
mean,
about
I
the
can't
family.
imagine the hope that,
Mm,
like, looking at you now, like, I mean, not to, talk you up too much, but you're a spectacular human being. And when they look at you now, like, golly, that's got to give them a lot of hope, and
yeah.
probably gives them a lot of encouragement to keep doing what they're doing, because you're a beautiful case study of what, love and focus and compassion and kicking
Yeah.
a butt every once in a while, probably. Right.
No, yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, life has definitely not been easy. When you grow up in that type of home life, it's hard to get past a lot of stuff. You carry a lot of baggage with you, and even through high school, I still got into some trouble and did some things, but I ended up graduating high school, and heading off into the Marine Corps. And my high school sweetheart, who came with me, we got married shortly after I enlisted in the Marine Corps, and she came with me down to North Carolina. And before I talk a little bit about that, that was a time when it was probably, actually, I think I was in boot camp when I got the phone call that my dad had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer.
Oh.
And that was such a difficult point in my life, because I remember thinking to myself, like, why, did he come back into my life, and now he's just going to be taken away? And like, I just remember being so angry at the world, angry at God, and just, not really understanding why this would happen. He was given 7 months, I think it was, to live. And my younger brother was a senior in high school at this time, and he was a really good wrestler. And I remember my dad had told him that, I don't care what the doctors say. I'm going to be here to watch you wrestle at the state tournament this year. And sure enough, they wheeled him in a wheelchair into the state wrestling tournament, and he watched my brother wrestle at the state tournament. And it was shortly after that he passed away. And it's a really difficult time in my life. But, there's so many lessons that I learned from him, in the short time that I was able to spend with him. So,
such
definitely
as
such as, yeah. Well, I kind of hit on it a little bit, but, the people you surround yourself with are who you'll become. And, that's something that I've passed along to my kids and made sure that, they've, chosen the right friend groups. I think about, just him leading, just as a leader for me, just leading with visible participation, like being there actively, through my struggles, and, not just telling me what needed to happen, but really being there and visibly being active in my life and coaching me. And it's so, people can say one thing, but it's really their actions that make the difference. And, for him, it was definitely the actions that made the difference in my life. And I pass that on with what I do now, and, not just with my family and with my kids, but in the work that I do. And it's something that's important, that we're showing up visibly, not just proclaiming it from the office, but really being there active with the people that we're coaching. I think about, respect and putting people first. That was always something that resonated with me when I would watch him at work. He would always put other people first. And the same thing with my brother and I. We always felt like we were really important to him, and even more important than his own needs. And, that's something that definitely stuck with me as well.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that, man. That's, not many people get on and that personal and vulnerable. I appreciate that. Talk a little bit about, I know that you're a man of gratitude, and gratitude means a lot to you. I'm wondering if you could expand on that a little bit and why that is.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been given so much in my life, where I am today. I'm, as I said earlier, just very blessed to feel where I am today. And, I think without gratitude, you have to be grateful for the things you have. And, everybody's at a different place. And, some people, maybe get too hung up on maybe the things they don't have nowadays. Or, you get on social media and you see all these pictures of people on trips and with all these different things, and you think, man, I wish I had that. I wish I had that, and I think sometimes that weighs on us.
Yeah.
But for me, I think, you have to be appreciative of the things that I do have. Based on what I grew up, the atmosphere, the environment that I grew up in, I didn't have a whole lot growing up. And, so every single thing that I have to be so grateful. The fact that my kids are healthy, my grandchild is healthy, my marriage is healthy, my work life balance is healthy. All of those things I just have to be so grateful for. My friends that I have now that speak into my life, that, I have a men's group that I meet with every Monday night. These guys don't hold back. They will tell you the way it is. And I'm thankful for that. I'm so thankful that my dad had the time that he did to come into my life. And so just so many things. And that gratitude is a huge part. And every year I have to be thankful and for all the things that I have. And I have to ensure that I'm also giving back too, when I think about, the beliefs, the values that I grew up with, which then kind of morphed and changed. The beliefs and values that I have now direct my actions. And because I have the value of gratitude so deeply ingrained in my heart, the actions that come out of that are giving back. and not only saying thank you, but also to give back and make sure that other people feel feel the same blessings that I feel. So that's a big part of what we do.
Okay, so I don't know. I'm just going to ask it, but because I don't typically go here on the podcast, but I don't know, feel called to. Has faith played like a role in this sort of this transformation that you've experienced?
It has, big time. I tell you what, there was a time when I was medically retired from the Marine Corps. Well, actually, before I tell you that, let me give you one quick story because it leads into this this other point.
Okay.
So I mentioned that my wife came down to North Carolina and lived. We got married, and our first few years of marriage were pretty rough, to say the least.
How old were you when you got married?
Oh, that's a good question. You just celebrated 25 years. I was 19, I think. 19.
Okay, so young.
Yeah. We were young.
Okay.
So young, military, and when my dad passed away, my dad was a heavy drinker. Among the many good things, that was a tough area. But when my dad passed away, I began to drink a lot as well. And being in the military, it's pretty easy to go down that path. And my first few years of marriage were really, really rough because of a lot of the choices that I made. And I think a lot of that baggage that I had from my childhood, rolled over into that as well. And my wife and I had a really difficult go. And I won't share too many details here, but I'll just say that there was some infidelity in our marriage. And because of that, there was another military couple that introduced my wife to church. They brought her to church and said, and I didn't want anything to do with God at this time in my life, to be honest. I was like, God can't exist based on, what I grew up in, and then bringing my dad back in my life and then taking him away. Like, I was so angry. I'm like, there's no way. So I wouldn't go to church. But this couple brought my wife to church. Well, my wife came home one day and it was almost like this complete 180. Like she completely like changed, and she was apologizing to me for things, and she was telling me how much she wanted to work on our marriage and all these different things. And I was just blown away by, it didn't matter how mean I was to her or how angry I got. She just poured love back into me. And so eventually I'm like, I want to know a little bit more about what's going on. She's like, you got to come to this church. And I still remember sitting in the back pews of the church, because I'm like, I don't want, not sure about this.
The further back you are, the safer you are, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Don't call on me for anything. I'll be back here. But what happened during the time is something inside me. Well, I know what it is now, but I just felt something really different about this place. And I was watching, and it felt like these people really believed that there was a God. They really believed in what they were talking about and how they were praising. And afterwards, I went to the pastor and I said, I got to talk to you. And he brought me in his office, and he showed me this diagram and kind of walked me through some different things. And I accepted Christ in my life on that day. And it was a complete transformation for me. I looked back on my life. I thought about those camp counselors, and I thought about my dad, and I'm like, man, God was there all along.
Yeah.
He was there every step of the way, and I didn't even realize it. And I just thought, man, I am fully committed to whatever it is that I need to do to give back. And again, it added to those, those values that I talk about the change in my values, the change in my beliefs, integrity, forgiveness, peace, patience, kindness. I mean, all of these values that just started to well up in me. And it was something that really started to change my actions in my marriage, in my work life, and everything. And really, so then now we come to the point where I'm getting out of the Marine Corps. And I remember asking God, what is it that I need to do with my life at this point? And I really felt led to start an organization that would give back to kids that were growing up a lot like I grew up. And it was at that point that I sat down and I just started, typing out everything that I felt like I was being given about how this organization that I felt I was being led to start would happen. And I just took different experiences from my life and what I felt led, and I drafted this plan of what this place would look like. And that was back in 2005. In 2010, we had a founding board. We had our first donation to get our 501c3. And we had a group of 6 families that trusted us enough to take their boys out on a camping trip in the wilderness, away from all the cell phones and all the pleasures of life. And those kids were fully transformed during that week that we were out. Wow. And since then, the organization has morphed into, it's Remembrance Ranch has transformed the lives of so many teenagers, boys and girls, and continues to just be just an amazing organization that's making a huge impact in so many kids' lives. And so I'm super proud about that, but it's definitely not me. I give that to God. So
yeah. Now, before the interview, I actually pulled up the website for Remembrance Ranch. So you're the founder, but are you actively involved today, or I see a whole big team of people there? But,
yeah. I sit on the board for Remembrance Ranch, and our team at Lean Solutions, we donate a ton of time, treasure to the organization. I started the organization, and I was very involved in the programming in the beginning. And I felt like I could be more of a support in different areas of the organization. So I do still volunteer for summer camps with the organization. But they have a whole team that is going out, and they're going into the schools, they're mentoring teens on goal plans, and getting into the homes with families and helping to stabilize homes and transform the lives of the families there. And so I'm volunteering on the program side for summer camps. Our team at Lean Solutions, obviously they can decide what they want to do, but they're all fully involved there and definitely donate a lot of their time there as well. And then I serve on the board. So, yeah.
Does Lean play a part in any of the work that you're doing with the young people? Like any kind of Lean principles, you're just kind of sneak it in there and they don't even know they're learning what tack time is and they don't even ask it.
It's funny. We use kata. We don't call it kata, but we talk about a challenge. Let's put a challenge out there. Where do you want to be 10 years from now? Where do you want to be 5 years from now? And then we back into that. What's your target condition? Where do we need to go next? And I need to. I really want to.
Obstacle, right?
That's right. Yeah, but I really want to graduate from high school. Well, what are the obstacles? What are the things that are keeping you from getting there? And let's work on these. So we definitely incorporate those principles. If you were to go into the Remembrance Ranch office, the visual management that they have in place is second to none. It's amazing. Wow. And I love going in there and showing that stuff off because they're so proud of the work that they do there. And, I've put some videos out before about, when I go in their trailer, they have a backpacking trailer that they take with them on their backpacking trips, and it's all 5S and, visuals everywhere. And, each tote has a picture on it with what goes in there. And it's pretty cool to see the staff when they unpack the trailer and when they pack it. I mean, you got new people that are from all over that are coming in, and they have no problem jumping in and helping out because everything's so simple. It's so easy to see where things go and how to organize it. And it's taken so much of the pressure off of the program manager because he's like, it's just made things so easy. They have this really nice visual calendar of the entire year, which we struggled for years on. Like we had so many moving parts and it was like so hard to manage. And so they put together this really nice visual planning calendar that works really well. Mm-hmm. And every day I go in there, there's always something new that they're just continuously improving.
Wow. That's so cool.
It's fun.
Hey, so maybe to wrap things up, I'm wondering if maybe there's someone listening right now. It's got kids and teenagers, whatever it might be, and they're struggling or whatever, and it's tough. I mean, I got teenagers, and it's not always perfect, right? So
Yeah.
like, what advice do you have for like parents listening who might be struggling with their rebellious teenage kid or whatever it might be? Like, do you have any, like, I don't know, practical advice on that end of it?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say that I have not.
No, come on. You figured it all out.
Parenting is tough. Parenting is tough. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. But no, just thinking about my own personal experiences, I've talked a lot about beliefs and actions. There's a principle that I think it's called the Oz principle out there. Experiences are what generate your beliefs. Your beliefs are what generate your actions, and your actions are what generate your results. And, inside there is an acronym BAR. And so I talk about raising the bar. Let's raise the bar. We might have to, in order to raise the bar on our marriage, on our, kids or whatever it might be, we have to think about, the experiences that have shaped their beliefs. What are their beliefs? What are their values? And that's what's determining their actions. So if you want different results, if you want a different outcome, you got to have different actions. And if you want different actions, you got to have different beliefs. And so think about that. What are the experiences that your kids have that have shaped their beliefs of where they're at? Or if they're young, what experiences do you want them to have? What values and beliefs do you want them to have? Because those are going to determine their actions, which are going to give you the results later in life. And for me personally, I had to change those values. I grew up with some really difficult, bad values. And those had to change in order for my actions to change. And the moment that those changed, not the moment, it took a lot of work, but that's what changed the results. And so I think that, that's a big one. I mentioned some of the things that I learned from my dad. But, I always tell those teens at the ranch, look at the 5 kids that you surround yourself with. Is that the type of life that you want to live? Are they building you up, or are they breaking you down? When I went into rehab, none of those kids showed up to support me. I never heard from any of them. The guys that I surround myself with on Monday nights, they would never leave my side. And they're successful business people that are challenging me to be better every single day. That's the type of people that you want to surround yourself with. So again, take inventory of who your kids are hanging out with. That can tell you a lot about the path that they're on.
Yeah. Wow. Well, this hasn't been your typical lean thinking podcast, but hey, man, it's human behavior, and I guess
that's right.
If that ain't lean, I don't know what else is. So
yeah.
Wow, so fantastic. True. Hey, if folks wanted to connect with you, Patrick, or Lean Solutions, what's the best way?
Yeah, I mean, you can go to our website, findleansolutions.com. You'll find a lot about Lean Solutions on there. Obviously, I'm very active on LinkedIn, so connect with me on LinkedIn. Reach out to me. As you heard on this podcast episode, I'm an open book. No matter what I do, I'm going to be fully transparent. And my hope is that, through that transparency, that maybe that could help others to share some of their experiences. And ultimately, we're going to build each other up and empower each other, equip each other to make a positive difference in the world. So let's do it together.
Fantastic. Hey, man, I appreciate you coming on, Patrick.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it, Ron.
All right, take care. Thanks for listening. Whether you've been on the continuous improvement journey for many years, or perhaps you're just getting started, Gemba Academy is here to support you. And while we're best known for our more than 1,500 Lean and Six Sigma teaching and virtual tour videos, we also have a team of experienced Lean and Six Sigma practitioners available for one-on-one coaching, as well as a variety of Lean and Six Sigma certification options. To learn more and to schedule a demo, head on over to gembaacademy.com.